from an economic meltdown, felt everywhere. I mean, America is only recovering now. And you can see it. If I can use the example of the US, for instance, there are many people who despise the leadership of Donald Trump. But the economy is doing so well that the people are saying, oh, okay, the guy may not be good, but at least I can.
We'll have more time. We'll have more time to do that quickly. Matthias, are we being alarmist? Are we not?
I think the situation is normalized. I don't think we're being alarmist. I think it's good times. We need to be realistic in everything we do. As much as Doc says the global economy, and that's why we are where we are, we also need to look at ourselves. Yeah. The wastage in the system, we need to address those things. And we need to be honest. We had a recession 2009. Is it 2009?
2008.
Bigger than what we have now in the world, and we survived as a country. What happened? What are the changes? What happened in between?
Gentlemen, this is exactly what I like, but our Nango team is waiting. This is a conversation that must be continued. Is it international forces? Is it internal forces? Is it both that's shaping the people's votes at the ballot? I will ask Indishishi to continue telling us what's happening on the ground there in the north. Keep staying tuned to NBC1.
Thank you so much, Patrick, Sam, Dr. Hoze, Riruako, as well as Matthias Haufiku. I'm now joined by the new constituency councillor, that's Mr. Leonard Sunday Nehonga, who, of course, accumulated 1,936 of the 3,792 votes, thus making him the new constituency councillor of the Ondangwa Urban Constituency. Very good morning to you, sir. Congratulations, and thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me here. First of all, let me thank all the electorate. Special thanks goes to SWAPO party members, supporters, sympathizers, who voted wisely yesterday. So, and the SWAPO party emerged victorious. So the victory is ours.
What did you make of the overall process? Are you pleased with how everything went about?
Yeah, for me, as declared by ECN, the whole process was free and fair. So I'm standing for that.
When you look at the results, when you look at the figures, as of course indicated by some of our analysts earlier, there is a plus minus 80 vote difference between what you accumulated, your 1,936, and of course all the votes that went to the official opposition parties. Of course, those are inclusive of the three political parties and the one independent candidate. Were you at any point concerned with some of the figures that came out from the various polling stations before the final count?
Not really. All what I can say is that the people have spoken. All the concern might be that the turnout was a bit lower, and I'd just like to encourage our residents, at least in the future, to be part of the democratic process, to go out and vote.
Yeah. From your perspective, why do you think that was the case?
In fact, historically it's a trend. On Ndangwa, the turnout is always from between 3,000 to 6,000. It's a trend, but of course one does not want to be like that. Yes. People have to go out and vote. Because if you don't vote, then for me, you could not be part of the democratic process. And some of the people might think, no man, I'm not going to vote because I have won already. Please, that attitude, let us not stand by that. Yes. Let us avoid that. Let's go and vote in the future.
Let's look at you now as the new constituency councillor. What are some of your immediate things that you would like to tackle within this constituency?
I respect what the founding councillor has done. He has laid the foundation. I'm going to start where he has ended. Of course, he has done, I believe there is a airplane.
Yes.
I'm going to continue with the project on the plane. After that, then I will see what can I improve. You know, my main focus is really to improve the living standard of Ondangwa residents. So that's my main focus. And again, I will mainly focus on the Sober Party programs that could be including industrializations, housing, sanitation, and food security.
Yes.
I'll look at that thereafter.
All right. In terms of on a national scale, you did, of course, indicate in your election manifesto that you will be, of course, also implementing programs such as the government's national development plans here in the Ondangwa urban constituency, the Harambee Prosperity Plan, Vision 2030, and, of course, some of the resolutions from the National Land Conference. Just how exactly do you intend on going about, implementing some of these national development plans within your constituency?
As I have said, those are already set program by the government. Then one need, I need to focus on industrialization, as I said, on housing and sanitations, food security. That will be my main focus on that one. Those are part of our Sober Party manifesto.
Yes.
Yes, the quality of Ondangwa residents need to be improved, as I have said already.
You're coming from a town council level and now stepping up onto a regional council level. When it comes to issues like land, for instance, which you of course also included in your manifesto, what is the situation in the Ondangwa urban constituency from where you left off on the town council level? And of course, how do you intend on bettering that situation on the regional council level?
As far as I know, the role of the regional councillors is not to give plots. One have to work close with town council to provide plots, especially to encourage the triple Ps and to provide land at least on cheaper price so that everybody can afford it. So I will work closely with the town council and business people at least to save us land and to make it a bit affordable to all residents.
We also had the voice from a youth representative earlier on, and of course they also have a few expectations of you. How do you intend on working with the youth here in the constituency?
I will engage them. I will listen to their concern, their priorities, and of course I will respond to those concerns and priorities.
Yep.
And my office doors will be open to all residents of Ondangwa, irrespective of sex or age. These include youth, elderly people, people living with disabilities, orphans, and all people who need assistance.
Yes. Any final remarks from you this morning, perhaps a word of encouragement, a word of assurance to the residents of the Ondangwa urban constituency, of course, as you come in as the new constituency councillor?
All what I can say is I'm ready to serve my people, and I'm ready to engage them. I'm ready to listen to their plea, as I have said, and I invite all of them to come to the office. I invite all of them to come with constructive ideas. Then we work together. That office is not for me. That is their office. So they are all welcome there.
Mr. Leonard Sunday Nehonga, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and all the best with your new post.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
My pleasure.
There you have it. That is the new constituency councillor of the Ondangwa urban constituency, Leonard Sunday Nehonga, talking to us about some of his objectives. Of course, saying that for the first year or so, he will continue to build on the foundation that was laid by the founding councillor, that is Elia Irimari, and of course saying that also his door is open to everybody from all spheres of life. He walked away with 1,936 of the 3,792 votes, thus making him the new constituency councillor of the Ondangwa urban constituency. You stay with us.
Well, that was the victory for the councillor who has won, obviously, Mr. Leonard Noronga, who was the SWAPO candidate. We've heard him speak now. You hear that he's saying that he's ready to lead his people. Doctor, I'm always intrigued by, like the pre and election phase of a democracy, when you are talking what you're going to do and you're against certain parties, and then after you win, he must go back now and reconcile the entire constituency. All of those 49% of the people didn't vote for him. How does that happen? Is there a principle that needs to be deployed in bringing the people back together and looking for a certain level of social cohesion?
No, it's very clear. When you campaign with your party colors. You are there as your party. But once you win, you are a leader of everybody, even those that opposed you during the election.
Do you repeat that?
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's difficult to understand that.
Yeah, what I'm saying is basically is that when you campaign as a political party. You come there with the ideals of your party, what your party can do better than the other party, and so on. So it's a battleground. But now, after the party, you must be able to rise beyond the partisan politics level and be able to bring the different remnants of everybody within a given community. Now you are serving everybody, even those that you oppose, even those that opposed you. So I think that's what it is. And unfortunately, in Africa and also in Namibia, if you go to even to the party level, that's why you have seen some political party breaking up in Namibia. That's why you have seen some new parties emerging from the existing formal party. That's why you even see the independent candidate. Sometimes people are not able to reconcile after defeat.
Yes.
That's one thing that we as Africans must internalize, accept defeat when we
But a lot of literature talks about that, and it insinuates or infers rather that you have to enhance your sense of political maturity. So talk to us about political maturity, Doctor, and how it allows for tolerance, particularly political tolerance in our communities.
That is the biggest problem that many developing countries are facing, is the fact that usually the majority do not appreciate nor respect a divergent opinion. But more so, let me correct myself also, even in smaller parties, that's what we have seen. I was following the campaign of the various candidates there, but you could see the element of hostilities, especially meted against the young lady, because it was for everybody, it was politically abnormal to them. We are not used to that. That's a new phenomenon. And I think as our democracy is going to grow much stronger, people are going to be more vocal. People are going to fight for their rights. People are going to hold their leaders to ransom. They will want leaders who can perform. They want leaders who can deliver, and they want people also to air their opinion independently. So this is one thing that right after independence, it's something that has been coming on for a while, and of course even the penetration of some of the stronghold of different political parties, it was difficult. Yes,
we have a caller online, but that's a very good place to leave it off. Political maturity, political tolerance. That's what we're talking about. Join us on the line. Good morning. Welcome. Good morning, Johannes. I think we might have lost Johannes there. But just let's continue. I think it's an important conversation around, if you're talking about obviously political tolerance, the exact opposite would be a form of backlash. And some people would argue that why this by-election has been so heated, that it's the by-election of what happened inside the ruling party's main Congress. The emergence of independent candidates, the ability to capture 30% of the electorate that hasn't been seen it, that we haven't been able to see. So quickly tell us the backlash before we take on Henning Miller, who's waiting for us on Skype.
Yeah, I think it's important to note, especially on what Doc said, that the maturity and the backlash, there's a direct relationship. Because we've seen in Africa and Namibian politics also, the debates are centered on playing the man and not the ball. So if I campaign by downgrading or insulting you, how do we harmonize after elections? So if we campaign using issue-based campaigns, it's easy to harmonize after elections. And then you find the backlash. What happens within the party? If the party never really unites after their conventions, their internal electoral processes, if they never really harmonize, that's where you'll see they start even during the party campaigns, national polls, they are not united as a force.
But a backlash is not part of the game. We'll keep it there. Let's take a caller on Johannes. Welcome to the special edition of our by-election broadcast. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Please tell us, what are you thinking this morning after you've woken up this morning with the election results that you have viewed?
What I'm thinking is the SWAP party must focus for the people.
They must
He must focus.
Yes.
When they finish with election, and they forget the people, they must go to the people, and they must talk to the people, they must choose the people, so even the youth read.
Okay. Thank you very much, Johannes.
Okay.
Again, the focus must be on the people. Getting back and integrating this to what we're talking about is this idea of backlash, not being able to be mature to understand, sometimes fire burns. Water drowns. Let's talk about the normalcy and the tolerance between backlash.
The comment by the caller, it's quite interesting.
But we've got a Henning Miller on Skype with us. Let's quickly take him.
Right,
good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Malbo, thank you very much for joining us on Skype. We're obviously at the point of talking about political maturity, tolerance, backlashes. But before you go there, maybe give us some of your insights regarding the outcome of this election.
Well, I think the youth has spoken, and they spoke with a very loud voice. That's a watershed. It comes to local politics in Namibia. The born-frees have a different voting pattern from what the elderly have. And that's the first visible result. It was the first time that an independent young woman took the courage and risk to stand in a community which was considered widely a total SWAPO stronghold. And as we can see from the result, and already before from the election campaign, when SWAPO sent the big shots to the local community, this is a moment where politics in Namibia on a local ground is redefined. Maybe the impact for the national elections in November is not that big yet, but we will see that with half of the electorate in the future being among those beyond the age of 35, politics are redefined. There is not any longer a loyalty to vote for the former liberation movement because of the liberation merits. What we see now is a new approach to politics in Namibia. And maybe it's a very good and healthy lesson to SWAPO.
But let's contest
it is
that.
Particularly a very good contribution to democracy in Namibia.
Mr. Malbo, let's contest that. SWAPO being one of the only liberation movements that has ascended at the ballot box, particularly in the National National Assembly and presidential elections. They're one of the only liberation parties with ascending wins over time with an increasingly younger electorate. So it's not the first time the Born Frees have voted. That was about 10 years ago. They were allowed at the ballot. So my question is, will this change the trend? We've seen Born Frees vote twice at the ballot, and the SWAPO party has increased its vote over time. I think we might have lost him. Gentlemen, maybe let's address this. Oh, he's still on? Can you hear us, Mr. Melba? I think we're trying to reconnect with one of our callers on Skype. We are reconnecting. Well, what we're contesting is this idea that a younger electorate necessarily means that that there's going to be deviation from the ruling party, which hasn't been the case, given the fact that the Born Frees have voted twice at the ballot, and it's actually led to greater increases for the ruling party.
Basically, for me, as I said earlier, it depends on what the party does.
Yeah.
It's a wake-up call, as my colleague was saying, to both the opposition and also the ruling party. Now, the ruling party, they have to engage a multi-pronged approach on how they can keep the voters that they have traditionally, how they can entice the youth, and how they can lure back the renegade members of the party, and especially on the youth, as the contributor, the professor said, from Skype. Their wants and needs are totally different. They look at things differently. They, as I alluded to earlier, they want to find out, what are you going to do for me? I mean, remember, the biggest chunk of the people who are caught up in the complete destituteness in this country in terms of unemployment and what have you is the youth. Some of them are educated, they are graduates, they are having qualification, they are having experience, but they are not able to penetrate the market. So now what they want is that, yes, I want to be employed. I like you as a party, I like you as a candidate, but what are you going to do for me? How are you going to change my situation? And I think that's the bone of contention, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of dynamics at play. The fact that there's a broader or a much greater young voter base doesn't necessarily translate into the ruling party losing dominance and power. So we shouldn't look at it that way. But the numbers, what do the numbers say? Who are the people who gave SWAPO this 80%, say, vote majority during the 2014 elections? Those are some of the things we should interrogate. And it's not an automatic thing. There are still young people who believe in what the party does, so they'll still stick to the party.
But that's interesting, because the question is, a lot of the times what I find in these political debates is that we recognize that there might be a democratic deficit, that there might be a gap in where we are and where we want to be. My question is, how do we respond, and how do we anticipate young people respond at the ballot?
Well, I think the first thing that we have to, it's a good analogy by my colleague. But traditionally, young people have been shying away from the ballot boxes. Usually it was the elder generation. So I think we must, and that's why we, one of our contributor, our colleague from the north, with your colleague Dishishi there, put it right on the money. I think the one thing that we need to do is, as part of our voter education, the young people are the one to be affected by the decisions that we are taking today. They are the one who are going to be leading, this country in the future. And if they don't get involved, they won't be able to change the course of history. So what we are saying is that the political party must have a deliberate strategy targeting the youth. Number one, luring them to the political system, because the majority of the youth, they don't go to this political rally. Let's see how else we can reach them. Let's go on the social media. How do we entice them? There used to be public lecture, a different institution, and so on. Let's go to the youth. Let's give them reasons for them to participate. And then also, how do we groom them up? How do we show that there is a growing care for you as a young person? Because what they are seeing now, it's a block wall. Unless you are old enough to have been in the party for so many years, then you won't be able to rise to a significant level.
But what if the narrative is not about the parties? What if the narrative is that we just want independent candidates? That this is a push for the promotion of independent candidates, is rather trying to say it's a lack of the political parties.
The independent candidate, maybe before my colleagues say, the independent candidate is coming because of the vacuum or whatever the youth are feeling. There are certain things that they are feeling that they're saying, if you can't do it for us, or if you can't do it our way, then perhaps let's try something else.
Okay. Matthias, quickly, before we take another caller.
But my question is always, why is there so much emphasis on political parties? Is it because the independent candidate phenomena is new? Because there's nothing stopping that, there's nothing blocking that. So as long as we have non-interactive politics, where you have parties basically carrying their candidates to victory, you'll have this type of things. We need to be interactive. Political parties need to be interactive, and things such as town hall meetings, as mentioned, let them have televised debates.
Okay.
If you are so confident to lead a constituency, you must be engaging with them and convince them to vote for you.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to take it back to the Skype call. Mr. Maba, are you back on Skype?
I hope so.
Well, we're very happy to have you back. We were obviously discussing the assertion that you made earlier on that a younger electorate obviously means a trend away from the ruling party. And we were saying that that's not necessarily true, since we've seen younger voters vote in the last election with SWAPO getting a lot more of the electorate. So what could be the other implying or implicating drivers behind this phenomena?
Well, first of all, we have to keep in mind it was local election.
Okay.
So an independent entity in a local community is a different game than an independent candidate for the assembly, the presidency. So if you are a candidate in the community, are personally known people with which you campaign.
I think we're struggling a little bit. We're struggling a little bit hearing the connection via your Skype.
I found it's not perfectly. I don't know what it is.
I think that we'll deal with the technical difficulty and see whether we can get him back online. But we do have a caller that's also waiting. Maybe let's take the caller while we try and sort out our Skype difficulties. Good morning, caller. From Swakopmund.
Good morning. How are you?
We're well, sir. Who are we speaking to?
PK from Swakopmund.
PK.
Yes.
PK, tell us, what's your sentiment regarding the outcome of this election?
I wanted to ask the low voter turnout. How will we know why these people didn't come to the party? Is the ECN going to commission a research to find out what happened to the 12,000 voters that didn't come to vote but they have registered? Do they have that mandate to find out what happens to these voters? That's what I want to ask.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Doctor?
This is not ECN's problem. I mean, this is now, the ball lays squarely with the political parties. They are the one to benefit from a high voter turnout. Because now look at the difference between the SWAPO candidate and the independent candidate. It's only 500 something votes. Now, depending on which party was able to aggressively, was able to mobilize their people to turn out en masse, that party could tilt the balance one way or the other. So ECN's role will be basically to make sure that they make the people become aware of the voting process and what have you. But the onus lays squarely on the different political parties to entice the people, because remember what we said earlier, there must be a reason for me to vote.
But you're coming from an academic institution, you're coming from the media background.
Yes.
This could definitely be something that we could investigate to understand what are the trends, why are the behaviors that led leading to voter turnouts. This could be why academic institutions, media could be more relevant because we're unable to answer this question, empirically at least.
Yeah, I think if I was part of the ECN team, this would definitely be part of my post-election analysis to find out what really happened. Just to prepare better in the future also. And I think it's easy to blame voters for the apathy, but what do we have to offer as a political party? What are you offering?
But this is interesting. We're saying at the one hand, to some extent, ECN has a role to play. We're also acknowledging the political parties have a role to play, and the citizens, the electorate themselves has the vote to play. So what actions can they take?
The situation as it is now, you remember the euphoria 1989. I was not there, you were here. The turnout was almost over 80, if not 90%. The people had something that was causing them to vote. You know, there was that hunger. There was so much hope. You know, are we instilling the same hope in our people? Are the voters seeing what the party is seeing? If there's no parity, if we cannot create some sort of an equilibrium where we can bring some sort of a balance between what we as political parties, as leaders, can bring to the fore, that the people will be able to appreciate and say, this person is talking about something that I like. And until we bring politics to that level, until we are able to reach all the four corners of this country, until we are going to make sure that everybody who's supposed to be voting have the necessary identity documents, until we have enough resources to go around this country from one area to the other, many people will remain dormant.
Okay, we're back on the Skype call again. Morning, Dr. Melba, Professor Melba, are you there? Ish, that's not a good start, but let's try again. Let's see, the Skype is... Oh, yes, we can see you on our screens. Well, continue the conversation you're having.
Okay. I hope the sound plays along.
It's a little better, yes.
And before I forget it, I wish you and others in this studio and those who watch very happy birthday.
Thank you. Gleichfalls, like they say in German.
Thank you. I think we stopped there. I tried to explain that an independent candidate in a community makes a difference to a party campaigning for the assembly. Can you hear me?
We're trying. Let's try.
Okay. Let me talk even slower.
Thank you.
Now, an candidate, as in the current, is campaigning in a community where she is known.
Okay,
And I get-
we're gonna try and call you via telephone and try and get your impact. Professor Melba, we'll try and get your input via a landline. Maybe that will help us. We'll give you a call. Our producers will deal with that. But we do have another caller from Ondobe on the line. Good morning, caller. Who am I speaking to?
Yes, this is Methusalem Hamkwaya.
Mr. Makwaya, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Please give us your sentiments on these elections.
There is nothing to worry about the situation in the Ondangwa constituency. One thing is that the apathy, it's also indicating that people are at their home and they are secured. Why they are secured is because there is no threat, it seems. You were referring to the elections in 1989. People were worried. They were fighting for peace, and peace comes. Now, when they are at home, they feel whether they went to election or they did not, they are secured. But there will be something that will threaten them in the near future. When something is coming, when the objective reality is coming, they will stand up and go to the elections.
Thank you.
So, what I want to say is that no matter what was transferred, the 16,000 which were supposed to go to the vote and they did not go, most of them are SWAPOs. You remember the historical background. The constituency belonged to SWAPO. The only people who stood up is those people who went to vote for the independent candidates. But this is a clarion call to the members of the party in that constituency or in the country as at large, that if the more they are not going to vote, the more they will be defeated.
Okay. Thank you very much for that insight.
What I'm saying is that they should learn a lesson. So they should learn a lesson. They should stand up and go to the. Most of those who did not go to to vote is the SWAPO members.
Thank you very much.
Who thought maybe they will just win.
Thank you very much. Point well taken. What do you say? The unvoted have spoken.
In politics, you don't leave anything to chance.
Yes.
You must be able to work your way to victory. Yes, I have talked to people who said, yes, even if I don't vote, SWAPO will still win. And what have you. And I think the voter also said something also right, that when the vote is threatened, then the people may wake up. But that is not how we run a political system. I still think that one of the caller who said that you people come to us during the election and you forget about us. There's a lot in that message.
Okay. John from Ocho is next to give us the input. John.
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
We're well. Please give us your sentiments.
Yeah, my sentiments about the Ondangwa election is that, you see, it is totally impossible that 16,000 people registered and only about 3,000 to 4,000 people went to the voting polls there. Now, I think it is not because as the other caller said, it's a matter of maybe the other people who didn't go for the polling station. They are from Swapo. How do we know, how can we prove that the other people who didn't go to the polls, they are not from the opposition candidate or the other political parties? That we cannot prove. I think, me personally think that maybe the people, the reason why they are acting like that is maybe because of the performance of that constituent councillors and maybe the government itself, the performance, maybe the people got fed up. Like yesterday, there was a person, I listened to the program up to 1, 2 o'clock, I just have been listening to the program. He was insisting on this corruption. Is it not the matter of that? People, maybe the message that reached the people up to the grassroots level, whereby they are deciding, no, it doesn't help to vote because there is no development, there is no progress which is taking place. Maybe that's the apathy. Because people have been talking about the code which was there and all that stuff, but I don't believe in those things. I think maybe it's for us, our leaders, to shape up and reach the people and find out precisely what the problem is they are having, so that the people can go to the polling stations. Instead of from 16,000, only 4,000 people are turning up, which is not a good thing for the country at large.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that this points to the need to actually get some empirical data or research conducted and interviewing people who are from that region. But we have to agree that there's many reasons why people didn't turn out and that we cannot have one. Quickly, Matthias, we have to cross over.
Yeah, Patrick, I think one thing our politicians are missing is after the votes, you take off your political jacket and you become a leader. And you start working. But we see many a times they still continue with the political games instead of delivering services. So people have decided to take matters into their own hands. I'll not go vote. I'll see how I'm going to survive.
But is this taking matters into your own hand for issue-based or for politics? Precisely because of that.
There are three things that one have to bear in mind. You give people hope. It will inspire them. It will make them to aspire.
Okay.
And that is key. That's where the answer is.
We'll keep it there for now. Obviously, it's time to cross back over to Dishishe, waiting by in Ondangwa to give us the latest of what's happening on the ground there.
Many thanks, Patrick. Of course, the role of the media cannot be underestimated in the electoral process. Of course, it is considered the fourth estate of a nation. Now, joining us this morning to give us a perspective from the media side is Tonateni Hambodi, NBC reporter here in the North. Very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us, Tonateni.
Good morning, Dishishe.
What was your experience of this just concluded Ondangwa Urban Constituency by-election as a journalist?
This election was free and fair. This was also confirmed by party agents who were present at most of the polling stations we visited. But before the election, we started with the campaign. The campaign was also fine here and there, but then the media continued to experience problems. Sometimes when we want to get hold of candidates, maybe just for them to give their inputs on why, or maybe to send their message across to the electorates and their supporters why they should go out there and vote for them.
So they weren't very forthcoming towards the media?
Come again?
So they weren't very forthcoming towards the media?
They weren't really forthcoming toward the media, because I remember there was a time when we wanted to profile all the 5 candidates in this by-election. It was really a struggle. We couldn't get hold of them. They were so, I don't know, they turned us down. It was only one of them who was willing to talk to us.
Yes.
And then if you don't use the media, which is a powerful tool of communication,
Indeed.
to reach your audience, who will vote for you? Because with some, they opted to do a house-to-house campaign. But if you use the media platform to send your message across to your electorate, then I think you will reach what your expectation.
Indeed. Oftentimes the NBC is labeled as, a mouthpiece for the ruling party. What would you say has been the role of NBC in this by-election? Have we been transparent? Have we been objective in covering this by-election?
We are always objective and transparent in carrying out our duties and responsibilities. But then some people do not understand, as they want to label us as belonging to a certain political party, which is not true. Some of the party, they make it difficult for us when we want to reach them. Yeah. They think we are only providing coverage to some of the party, not to Part A. We're only providing the coverage to Part B, but when you're available, you don't want to be available when we need you. Do you understand? When I remember some of the opposition, or some of the party that participated in this election,
yes,
they did not even carry out rallies. They did not call us to go out and cover their rallies, despite a platform NBC availed to them to make use of the free platform for them to send the message across through us.
Yes.
It was really hard for us to get hold of them, but at the end of the day, you'll find that as being blamed not providing free coverage, which is not the case. Because the media and the newsmaker is a two-way traffic. I need you, you need me.
Yes.
But you need me most because you are going to use me as the media to send your message across to the masses whom you are advocating for to vote for you.
Yep. With regards to voter turnout, do you think the NBC has done its part in terms of creating awareness, in terms of educating the electorate about this process, in terms of giving out key information with regards to the candidates, with regards to the voting process itself logistically? Has the NBC done its part in that regard?
We did our part because there was even in all the 5 political parties contesting were called to meet NBC even here in town, but then only few turned up. And we also tried our best to get profiles of all the candidates. We failed.
Yes.
We provided free coverage for them to send their message across through the rallies. Some didn't. I can tell you, some of these political parties that contested, we did not cover any of their rally. They did not hold any rally. Some opted to go house to house. If you opted to use that platform, maybe it's up to you to learn from your mistake.
Yes.
Was the platform I used to reach to my supporters and sympathizers effective? And if it's not effective, what do I need to change to ensure that if I use the media, I will be able to reach my objective?
Indeed. Tonateli, you are a seasoned journalist. You've seen your fair share of elections, be it national elections, be it by-elections. With upcoming elections like the Oshakati East constituency by-election and this worrying trend of poor voter turnout, do you foresee this trend continuing into some of these elections that are to come in the coming months?
I foresee it indeed, because if we do not change to new strategies to ensure that we educate the electorates about the importance of voting, it seems like maybe people have forgotten about the importance of voting.
Yes.
Voting is a fundamental human right where any citizen is expected to express, to vote, to reach or to vote any political party of your choice or leader or government, but you can only do that through voting. But if people are reluctant to vote and nobody's going an extra mile to find out why, maybe you need to do a research why people don't want to vote. Because when you walk around town when the election was here on Saturday, the town was so quiet. It was not active. You wouldn't see people walking out of their houses to go and vote. They were so just busy carrying out their household chores as usual.
Yeah.
Some were saying, no, we're at work and we wait after work. Maybe the turnout will pick up, but it didn't. If a research is not done to find out why people are not voting, then I think the situation might repeat itself on the upcoming Oshakati East constituency. Something really needs to be done. Maybe we need to really to go out to the people and reach out to them, find out why are you not voting? Why? What angers you? Whom are you trying to frustrate? Are you trying to frustrate maybe politicians, or are you frustrating? Who do you want to frustrate? At the end of the day, you are frustrating yourself, because if you are not voting for a political party of your choice to bring changes in your community and the country at large, at the end of the day, you are voting, you are frustrating yourself because your expectations will not be reached.
Yeah. And of course, we also expect you to take up that story from that particular angle. I'm assigning you stories now. I hope I don't get into trouble for this. But with regards to the November elections, is the NBC ready to bring this very important, what is considered very crucial elections to the viewers? Are we ready? Are we equipped? Are we geared for this?
We are equipped, despite the financial constraints. We are equipped and we are ready, and we are just urging the newsmakers to reach us halfway in our quest to educate, inform, and entertain the nation. Because if you are not reaching us halfway, when we need you, you avail yourself to us, then we won't be able to reach our objectives. And at the end of the day, we end up being blamed where blame is not needed. If we call on the newsmakers to meet us halfway, and also to understand when they hold meetings that it's important you stick to time. If you say 1 o'clock, it's 1 o'clock.
Yes.
Instead, sometimes we are being kept hostage at one event. There's an event that's supposed to start at 1, it's going to start at 4. The whole day you are sitting at an event, and when you leave, you are being reported to highest authority and being blamed not leaving the event before an event starts.
Yes.
And we also have the issue of our newsmakers, where a keynote speaker is being put at the end of the program in front of 10 other speakers who should speak. Now you will be kept hosted at the event and will be blamed that you left before the keynote speaker. Our newsmaker need to improve on some of this to ensure that we only maybe need few speakers to speak, and they should start on time, so that we also go and provide coverage to others. I'm telling you, in the northern regions, we are only able to cover one story per day. And you know our regions are
Because
vast.
of the
Regions are
distances,
vast, the distance are far from one another. I won't be able to cover a story in Ohangwena and I got to cover in Omsati. But then we try in many ways to tell our newsmaker, can you please try to shorten your events as possible, so that you give us a chance to go and cover others. If this could be understood, NBC's aims and objectives of informing and educating the nation will reach all in the country.
Jonathan, as we part ways, what is your message to fellow journalists as we, of course, cover issues around political matters such as elections? Just what is your message to fellow journalists?
I just urge them to continue being patient, because we really sometimes go through hardships in trying just to balance our story. You try to get hold of maybe a response from a certain person,
Yes.
but then we are being informed, I have to call my representative or my boss in Windhoek, and you have to wait after a week. While I'm on deadline here, I need the answer as soon as possible. But at the end of the day, we end up with stories that ends that our efforts to try to get a response from this newsmaker proved futile. And we don't want our story to end like this. We want our story to end at the end of the day, our story to be a well-balanced story. Then sometimes we are being blamed only writing only one-sided story. But this sometimes is not it's not our wish, but it's the situation we find ourselves in. So I just urge fellow journalists to keep on working despite the hardships we go through, despite the financial constraints, so that we should continue to serve our nation to the best of our ability.
So, Antania Ambodi, thank you so much for joining us this morning and just giving us that media perspective there.
Thank you very much.
There you have it, NBC reporter here in the northern parts of the country, Tonateni Hambodi, is giving us her experience of covering this Ondangwa urban by-election. of course, citing some challenges, but also encouraging fellow journalists to continue pushing and, of course, writing those well-balanced stories. That also brings to a close our coverage of the by-elections here. Of course, we engaged some of the stakeholders here from last evening. Those included that is Electoral Commission officers. We spoke to a couple of analysts here as well, youth representatives, party representatives, and also, of course, speaking to the journalists. We'd like to thank Nictus Furniture Ongwediba for providing us with this lovely set. And of course, thank you ever so much for always making sure that the NBC looks good on television. We'd also like to thank all of our crew here who have been working tirelessly around the clock to make sure that we bring you, of course, these very important matters live to your screens, to your radio sets, and of course via our online platforms as well. So thank you everybody so much for always making sure that we, of course, inform the nation with regards to matters of this nature. For myself, Patrick, and of course the rest of the crew here, it is goodbye and pleasant viewing ahead.
Well, that's our team from obviously Ondangwa that was on the ground giving us what's been happening over the last 2 days. I think they did a good job in making sure that we're speaking with the appropriate candidates as well as people from the media as well as that from the Electoral Commission. We obviously are going to give you a quick Skype interview with Mr. Malbert just to finish it off, and then final comments from our panel here, and we will be closing off as well. It's telephonic this time. We told you. Good morning. Mr. Malbert, Professor Malbert, let's try for the last time.
Yes, thank you very much, and let's try it this way around.
Yes, it works a lot better, please.
Okay, I think what we experienced since yesterday is a turning point in Namibian democracy. And we all, including SWAPO, should be grateful for a courageous young woman and her electorate to make a new input into how democracy in Namibia is understood and practiced. And I hope it's a challenge to all political parties, especially the dominant political party, to put up their socks, address subject matters which are relevant to the ordinary voters, and in particular the born-frees, to get the votes they deserve for good policy and not because of claims that they liberated us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Professor Malbert.
It's a pleasure.
That's the spectrum that we have. Does that role become insignificant? Doctor, what's your final analysis for us?
My final analysis is three things. In politics, some of the serious determining factors are who gets what, when, and why. And if the masses are convinced that they are having equal access or equitable access to equity, if they think they are having equal access to the wealth of the country, if they think that the services that they are provided are equitable, if they think that whatever service that they ought to get is not hindered, they will remain at peace, they will remain satisfied, and of course they will support whatever political party of their choice.
Okay. I'm going to make it a little bit more difficult for you by giving you the same benchmarks that you gave us. Who's the biggest winner and the biggest loser when it comes to the independent candidate, the ruling party, or the opposition?
I mean, to be honest, the independent candidate is the biggest winner. It opens the floodgates. She basically planted a seed, and other independent candidate potentials would see that this is fertile ground. I can also move there. If she could do this during a first attempt. So it should be a wake-up call to political parties. They need to pull up their pants. No more silver spoons in their mouth, and they need to deliver. And I think the Ondangwa polls speaks on behalf of all other regional polls. that will come. Decentralization should not be a theory. It should be put into practice. People need to feel that I can walk into the councillor's office and come out with a decision made, not him having to send a letter to Windhoek.
Who's the biggest loser, the opposition, the ruling party?
The opposition, in my regard, this election basically says we don't need an opposition party, we just need independent candidates.
Gentlemen, is that how we're going to live? We might not need opposition parties. Someone was calling it yesterday the double-digit curse of opposition parties, where they cannot seem to be getting past the 10% benchmark.
Yeah, the opposition, over the years, they've been crying foul that they are unfairly treated when people say they are not offering an alternative.
And now the 37% speaks differently.
This speaks differently, so more can be done.
Do you agree? The biggest winner is the independent candidate, the biggest loser are the opposition parties?
I think so, but just one quick point. I think the only challenge and biggest threat to SWAPO is SWAPO itself. So any candidate that comes out of SWAPO, like what we've seen with the independent candidate, poses a very serious challenge.
So the birthplace is important. Where they come from is important. Gentlemen, there's a lot to discuss. I'm very excited for this year, given the fact that we've started here. Obviously, there's an Oshakati East by-election taking place as well. But the big one this year is obviously the presidential and National Assembly elections that will be taking place in November. But if this is anything to judge by, I think we've gotten the right perspectives. We've given you 2-day coverage. Obviously, we've given you sign language interpretation. People living with disabilities and including them in this political dialogue is also important. And so NBC and our teams in the north and here have done their best. We've stayed up till 2 o'clock, given you real-time information. There was nowhere else where you found out the information but here on our platforms. And that's the benchmark that we're going to keep this year when it comes to election time and ensuring that our democracy raises to its next level. As you heard my panelists say, thank you very much, gentlemen. The biggest winners is the idea of independent candidates with a 37%, and they're saying the biggest losers are the opposition that were not really able to consolidate a strong opposition to the ruling parties. That's it. That's it from us here in the studio. From myself, Patrick Sam, Maggie Kashinamunene, and the entire team. It's a good day.